Good morning. I'm going to continue talking about the paramitas. This will be the last one in this series of talks. And it's called Prajna paramita. And you've at least heard the word because in the Heart Sutra it starts out Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva doing deep Prajna paramita. So I'll talk about what that Prajna paramita is. And Prajna is often translated as wisdom. And it's the wisdom of emptiness. So it's to see clearly the nature of all things, that they're empty of any fixed quality or quantity, constantly changing, impermanent. But this prajna is also called the functioning of the one body. The one body is, of course, what our practice is about, is to see the interconnectedness of everything, the oneness of everything. So, Prajna paramita also has another meaning, and Prajna paramita is called the mother of the Buddhas. And everything arises from the womb of Prajna paramita. And later, Prajna paramita was associated with the goddess Tara. And Roshi Shinko emphasizes that with her practices of Zen of the Sacred Feminine. She emphasizes the importance of Prajna paramita and Tara as a great mother who brings peace and equanimity in the presence of conflict and ill will. And the Heart Sutra, which we chant in our service, is an abbreviated version of the Prajna Paramita Sutra. And the Inno who introduces the chant says Maha Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. So the first half of the Heart Sutra explains what prajna is, and the second half explains the functioning of the bodhisattva who realizes this prajna. So prajna is everything as it is. Don't need to add anything extra or take anything away. But the Buddha also said that everything is impermanent or changing. So prajna is the enlightened state, but it's changing. If we can really get that and let it soak in, there's no way to really get upset about ourselves. All of the disease that we feel from dissatisfaction or guilt about not doing things in the proper way, in the context of prajna, it takes on a different perspective. So whatever it is, it's going to change. So instead of being tormented by guilt and bad feelings, we can say, let's pay closer attention. Let's be more sensitive, more aware, more mindful, and encourage ourselves to do that. Yeah. It's interesting. How long ago was it? About 50 years ago? Was it that long ago? Yeah. I used to work as a science writer and journalist when I was living in London for the New Scientist, and it was a weekly. And if we made a mistake, sometimes journalists make mistakes. We made a mistake in the magazine. We'd say, "Oh, well, a new one's coming out in a week. We can correct it or whatever." In a book, I'm right now we're putting the finishing touches on a book I wrote about the 5 ranks of Zen, Tozan's 5 ranks. And if you have a typo in a book, it lasts much longer than if it's a weekly magazine. But what about right now? Social media. Politicians can lie through their teeth on social media, and then we forget about it the next day because there's something else coming up, which is either more outrageous or more magnificent, It just, everything goes so fast. I just read an article in online, but it was from a newspaper, I think the Washington Post, about a school that stops students from taking their smartphones into classroom. And they have these little pouches, and when they come to school, they have to put them in the pouches, and it's kind of has a lock on it, and they can't unlock it until they leave the school, and then they unlock it. And the results have been amazing, the kids are paying more attention in class and so forth. I mean, you've seen cartoons where people are sitting together having dinner and they're both on their phones and they're sending text messages back and forth to each other right across the food. So, how do we pay closer attention, and how do we do it better? And that's the focus and the point of our practice. So sitting on the cushion, we quiet our mind. Then we're able to experience ourselves in a wider context. And we're able to observe the activity of our mind without identifying with it. And we're beginning to experience the one body. And the more we're able to see the strategies that we develop in order to protect our view of who we are, the less potent those strategies become. And we need to do it over and over and over again in order to shine the light of Prajna into these dark places. So Prajna is empty in the sense that it has no content of its own. It is everything as it is, like a mirror that reflects what appears and then is empty when there's nothing in front of it. So everything is complete as it is. Sometimes we say everything is perfect as it is, but we have to be careful, because if we say perfect, then there's imperfect, and so if this is perfect, something else is imperfect. But Prajna includes both perfection and imperfection. And we say when everything is perfect as it is, that perfect includes perfection and imperfection. It's not just our idea of perfect. So you have to be careful. Some of these words, are tricky. Like we say, we talk about form and emptiness, when we chant in the Heart Sutra, form and emptiness. But so is everything form? Is everything emptiness? Yes, no, both, neither. So what is it? It's something else. We don't know what that something else is. It's like, I like the example of particles and waves in quantum physics. Sometimes electrons or light particles, photons, they act like waves, sometimes like particles. What are they? Are they particles or waves? Well, they're neither, and both, and something else. So that's the limit, yeah, of our language. So one synonym for perfect is absolute. Things are just as they are. So, like I said, perfect does not imply good over bad. Perfect is neither good nor bad, just what is as it is. So, when we say something's perfect, we're pointing to this absence of dualism. For the one body, there is just one thing happening. And Bernie Glassman once told me that the purpose of our practice is to realize the oneness and the interconnectedness of life. But our brains think in dualistic ways. They store ideas and concepts, and then the ego becomes attached to these various ideas and concepts. And those attachments are keeping us from seeing the interconnectedness of life. So the practice of Zazen helps us to become non-attached to these ideas. It doesn't mean you don't have ideas. It means that you're not attached to them. And if we can let go of our attachments and dualistic thoughts, then we can experience the connectedness and interrelational characteristics of life. That's what our practice is about. To realize it and then to integrate it into our life. So, whether we see it or not, we're all inextricably bound together, such that whatever we do affects one another. So we all co-arise, and our life is relational. Was it 2 years ago in 2022, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded to 3 physicists who articulated what's called quantum entanglement, which basically states that no object can exist independently from other objects. All objects are entangled, and none has an independent existence with definite properties of its own. Instead, they only exist in relation to other objects. So we have this philosophical phrase in Buddhism we call codependent origination. Codependent origination. And Thich Nhat Hanh invented the word interbeing to describe this. So we're simultaneously turning one another while everyone is turning everybody else simultaneously. So many indigenous cultures and the goddess religions intimately know about our interconnectedness. So in Roshi Shinko's practices, the mother goddess, she talks about how it connects us all to what is this perfection of Prajna paramita. In many ancient societies saw the planet and all life as sacred. Families were sacred. The earth was sacred, and all life had meaning in our interconnectedness in the sacred circle of oneness. The teacher of Dogen, whose name is Tendo Nyojo, wrote a poem about Prajna. It goes like this. The entire body is the mouth hanging in the air. The entire body is the mouth hanging in the air, which is another word for emptiness and emptiness. It does not matter from which direction the wind blows, north, south, east, west. The wind bell always makes the sound of Prajna. Ding, ding, ding. See? Doesn't matter what direction the wind blows. The bell always makes the sound of Prajna. So it doesn't matter, the winds of your life, what direction the wind blows from, or the intensity of the wind. Your life always reflects Prajna itself. Shishin Roshi, who is one of the first American Roshis, practiced primarily in Hawaii. He died several years ago, but he wrote a book called The Practice of Perfection, which was about the Paramitas. And when he was still young in his practice, a friend said, the song of the birds is Prajna, the sound of the wind is Prajna. And he said it didn't make any sense to him at all, To him, Prajna was some state of realization that's beyond the worldly, the secular and the profane, It's some ethereal thing that, we can't conceptualize because it's transcendent. And he thought that it was a state of religious ecstasy that makes us impervious to all of the vicissitudes and the conundrums and the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. And later, Shishin Roshi realized that if Prajna had been a snake, he would have bitten him. So it reminded me of the first time I went to San Francisco, which I remember the year, it was 1962. And it's a year I graduated college, and I was going to go to graduate student in Berkeley across the bay from San Francisco. And I wanted to see the famous Fisherman's Wharf. And I had driven up the coast, and we stopped in Monterey, which had a beautiful pier that went out into the ocean. They called it the Monterey Wharf. So I was looking for something like that. And I'd been on the Santa Monica pier, which was called the wharf there. And so I looked on my map, and I went exactly to the spot where it was supposed to be, and I looked around. It didn't look anything like the places that I had imagined in my mind. So there was a policeman standing there, and I said, could you direct me to Fisherman's Wharf? And he said, if it fell down, it would hit you. So I was standing right in the middle of it, and I was looking for something else. And I didn't appreciate the qualities of the San Francisco Fisherman's Wharf at first, but later I came to appreciate it. In the Blue Cliff record, there's a koan, case 90, which says, a monk asked Chimon, what is the essence of Prajna? And Chimon said, the oyster encloses the bright moon. And the monk asked, what is the function of Prajna? And Chimon said, the rabbit conceives her young. So, according to Chinese folklore, the pearls are formed when an oyster captures the moon, and rabbits are conceived in the light of the full moon. But if you want to understand Qigong, don't dwell on ancient Chinese legends. Actually, oysters create pearls from sand that gets into their membranes and causes irritation. And then the oyster secretes fluids to protect itself from the sand, and that fluid hardens into a pearl. So without difficulties, there would be no pearls. Without going through the dark cave of demons, there would be no realization of prajna. Yeah. And like Tendo Nyojo said, it doesn't matter from which direction the wind blows. Whether it's the harsh wind from the north or the gentle, suave wind from the south. The wind bell always chimes, and it always chimes the sound of prajna. We just don't realize prajna when we see it. Just as we don't realize that all of our fears of feeling feelings is prajna. We have judgments that it should not be that way. We think when I'm enlightened, I'll have no problems. I won't have to struggle. I won't have to work hard. And everybody will love and respect me. So if you love what you're doing, work is not work. And struggles are not struggles. And people will love you because you manifest love yourself. That's the essence of prajna. What about the functioning of prajna? How does prajna manifest in the world? The Heart Sutra explains it. This is the truth, not a lie. Dogen said, all Buddhas are nothing but Prajna Paramita. Prajna Paramita is the entire Buddha Dharma. This Dharma is the form of emptiness. No creation, no destruction, nothing pure or impure, not increasing, not decreasing. The manifestation of Prajna Paramita is the manifestation of a Buddha. If you seek the truth, you will learn that to honor Prajna Paramita is to meet the Buddha. And you cannot say you have truly met the Buddha unless you serve him. That's what Dogen said. So I've often said that our practice is not about what we can get out of it. It's about service. How can we manifest our Bodhisattva's vows? The first line of the Heart Sutra says Avalokiteshvara doing deep Prajna Paramita. That's how. Yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but back when I first started practicing with Shishin Roshi, I had an academic meeting in Japan that I went to. And I spent about a week with his family. His father is a Buddhist Soto priest and of some repute, and he has 7 brothers, and all of them are Buddhist priests, except one who's a sculptor of Buddhist sculptures, and they were very, very kind to me. They took good care of me. I stayed at their temple, and they fed me and made sure I was comfortable, and even one of the brothers would take me around to show me sights. When I got back, I asked Maezumi Roshi how I could repay them for their kindness, what I could do. And he said, just realize Prajna paramita. That will repay them more than anything else you can do. So Hakuin made a Zen joke about this first line of the Heart Sutra, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva doing deep Prajna paramita. He said, bah! Gouging out healthy flesh and creating open wounds. How strange this prajna is. Just what is it like? Deep, shallow, like river water? Can you tell me what kind of prajna has deep and shallow? I'm afraid that it is a case of mistaken identity, confusing the pheasant with the phoenix. So he's saying, what are you trying to accomplish doing deep Prajna paramita? He said, you already are Prajna paramita. So what are you doing? Ripping off flesh, looking for it, and completing and creating wounds? Yeah. Years ago too, when I was, like I said, I was living in London. I returned and had a position at university in San Diego, and started sitting with a small group there. A man named Ray Jordan, who was a professor at San Diego State University of Religion, and he had studied with Soen Nakagawa, who was the abbot of Ryotakaji Monastery. And when I was in London, I studied with Sochu Suzuki Roshi, who was the next abbot of Ryotakaji. He was a student of Soen Nakagawa. And in this small sitting group of Ray Jordans, one time Soen Nakagawa was in the United States and he came to visit us. And we were talking, and I said to him that, he knew I was a student of his disciple, Sochu Suzuki, and I said that I was working on Mu at the time, the koan Mu, and I said to him, I'm really trying hard to understand Mu. And he looked at me and he said, trying? And I thought, of course, trying. If you don't try, but it's like Hakuin saying here, you're trying to get something other than what you are. So I've said this many, many times. I think I realized after that encounter and thinking about it that for me, trying means to let go of whatever we don't need, whatever we're holding on to that's extra. Just keep letting go. And if we keep letting go, then whatever this Prajna paramita is will reveal itself to us. It's always there, it's just we obscure it with our attachments and our dualistic thinking. So even though prajna is equated with emptiness, it transcends emptiness and form and encompasses both. The Heart Sutra says that form is exactly emptiness and emptiness is exactly form. And some of you have worked on these koans. In our tradition, we use these lines as koans. Form is emptiness is one koan, and another koan is emptiness is form. But they're not the same thing. It's like when I studied math, there's a principle called commutation, which means that if it says A equals B, that automatically means B equals A. The same thing. But here, it's not the same thing. You have to realize both of them, what the meaning of form is emptiness and what the meaning of emptiness is form. Yeah, I mentioned before that Dogen's teacher, Tendon Yojo, used to exhort his students, he would say, drop off body and mind. Let go of your attachment to your body and your mind. Your ideas and your images of what your body and mind are. And Dogen had an experience of dropping off body and mind, and he went to see Tendon Yojo, and he bowed in front of him, and Tendon Yojo said, why are you bowing? And he said, I've dropped off body and mind. So I dropped off body and mind. That's form is emptiness. And then Tendon Yojo said, if he dropped off body and mind, who is this standing before me? And Dogen said, the dropped off body and mind. And that's emptiness is form. You see the difference? I'll let you ponder that. So, Keizan wrote a marvelous, Master Keizan, who was one of the founders of Soto Zen in Japan with Dogen. He wrote a marvelous poem about, which I think correlates with this. He said, though clear waters range to the vast blue autumn sky, how can they compare to the hazy moon on a spring night? Most people want to have pure clarity, but sweep as you will, you cannot empty the mind. There's always the dropped off body and mind, at least as long as we're alive. People want to rest in pure clarity and clear waters. But what about the ambiguity of the hazy moon? So sweep as you will, the diapers still need changing, and the lawn will need mowing, and the meal needs fixing, and your partner needs attention, and the zendo needs remodeling. And in order to do that, we need a clean diaper, a functioning lawnmower, fresh food and utensils, and time to spend together, and money to maintain a place where we can practice. So without Prajna, there would be no Buddha way. And all of the paramitas are contained within Prajna. I talked about them. Dana, which means giving. Shanti, which means patience. Virya, which means effort. Sila means precepts, and Samadhi means deep concentration. So when we realize Prajna, then all the paramitas become deeper, and in turn deepen our experience and realization of Prajna. But then we have to let go of deep and shallow, and not mistake a pheasant for a phoenix, as Hakuin said. Okay, I'll finish there and open it up for comments, questions. Thank you.